Well, hello, YouTubers. This is the Paranormal Truth Seeker. Well, hey, I want to talk to y'all about one of my favorite, if not my most favorite subject in dealing with the paranormal, and that's EVP. And that's right, I'm going to show you the history of EVP. But before I get started, do me a big favor, it really helps me out. Please like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Okay, so let's just get right into it. So I can tell you that I've got about, over 35 years of investigating this phenomena. I worked with Dennis Houck, who was a consultant for the movie White Noise. So I've got a pretty extensive background in this. I've paid attention to a lot that's going on over the years, but I can kind of tell you there's really nothing new. Now, with that said, I do want to share some of my own experiences mixed in with some of the scientific research that you're going to see here. So my goal is to kind of give you some ideas on some things that you probably have never heard, never seen. You hear a lot of people saying EVP is bunk. It's never been looked into by the scientific community. Well, that's bunk. It has been examined scientifically. So, as we can see here, I think you could read the writing on the screen. Gilbert Bonner, 1924 to 1997, became one of the first full-time EVP experimenters. Now, he was interested in proving scientifically the voices were real. He worked with the British government in a radio wave shielded Faraday cage to prove the voices were not stray radio transmissions. Now, you're going to get a lot of people that are going to tell you that's exactly what it is. Audio pareidolia, you're not hearing that right. So let me say this. When you listen to EVP, it's always a good idea, generally speaking, to have a good set of headphones and make sure that, well, they're good headphones and that you're not listening to it over a piece of junk. So I can tell you there's a lot of stuff out there that people will tell you class A, B, or C, and everybody thinks that they've got A. So it's kind of like when you go fishing with somebody and they catch this, well, maybe average size or under, and they swear to God that it's the biggest fish they've ever caught of that particular type. We all know the type. So it's that way with EVP. But yes, class A EVP exists. I have many of them on my website. Or a number of them will say. You can go to my website, and if you've got good headsets, you can listen. That's prosinvestigations.com. Again, that's prosinvestigations.com. So let's just jump right into it. So you can see some of the people there who basically believed that the soul would survive, and that at some point in time that we would be able to communicate with people through some sort of radio waves, recordings, whatever. So these are some of the first people who did it. Now, I can tell you that there's a lot of different ways and things that people have tried over the years. There's really nothing new, maybe just combining some of those things together because we now have that technology. So technology has done a lot for the EVP field. There's also ITC, which is instrumental trance communication. Now, the difference in the two is EVP is just going to involve a recorder, whereas using something like a radio, well, that's going to be more ITC. People have set up televisions, for example, and created a loop by pointing the camera at the screen. And, well, now this is without an antenna. Some interesting faces and figures have come through that. So there's many methods of ITC anymore. I've seen a lot of people do a lot of different things. But getting back to EVP, it has been scientifically studied. So I wanted to point that out to you. Let you see who some of these people are, like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Sherlock Holmes books. You know, he's the one that wrote those, and others. So there's a lot of good people out there who've experimented and worked with EVP. So let's just move on and talk about the guy who really started bringing it to the scientific community, we'll say on a larger scale. So we're going to see how that came about. And let me go over here since we're on my computer and click if it works. Okay. All right. So Frederick Jrgensen, interesting individual. We'll read a little bit about him. I'll scroll through here and we'll kind of talk a little bit about some of the stuff that he's did, and we'll move forward with him. But he's the guy who kind of brought it to Rod Eye. So he found the voices while trying to tape birds. And here's a foreword of his book that you just saw. And basically one of the things that they want to point out is that anybody with an audio recorder can talk to the deceased. So now, before we go on with can we really talk to the deceased, we can't prove it's a deceased. We can't prove that it is or isn't. So these voices have claimed to be anything from ghosts, aliens, demons, other things as well, other dimensions, artificial intelligence. So we don't know. The list just goes on. But Jrgensen, he was a guy that kind of brought it to the to Roddive, who really brought it to the scientific community. In fact, he talks a little bit about how it happened and what his results were, and some different things. So it's very interesting to read Jurgensen's book. One of the things that it talks about in here is that in the foreword, the voices manifest on the tapes is influenced by subjective factors. It is easy to protect yourself by letting others check and confirm them. So I think that's something that's important that we do. We have to be willing to stand up to scrutiny. This is just some of what we have to do, and that's something that a lot of people don't like to do. Other people don't realize, and I'm going to see if I can find it here for you, that it actually names somebody who actually worked with the police in solving crimes. That's right. So that's kind of interesting. The Catholic Church looked into the voices. So there's a lot of things that have happened with EVP that people aren't aware of. And so we're going to scroll down just a little bit further. And you can see right there. We'll get the guy's name here so that you can see it for yourself. Just scroll down just a little bit. There you go. So, for instance, it says late engineer Franz Silva of Vienna developed a psychophone which transferred well-modulated voices and which discovers and investigated more thoroughly than those who have been the case until now. So we see Hans, how you say that guy's name, Luska in Vienna, obtaining success in solving crimes by asking murder victims on tape about their murderers. Jurgensen had already noted that these paranormal voices played backwards also contained statements. And that's kind of interesting because, it kind of reminds me of backwards masking, which some people have talked about. And so it's an interesting subject as well, but we won't even get into that. So we can see that there's been a lot done as far as the research, so there's really nothing new. This is one of those things where people began to figure out something was going on. They wanted to look into it more, and look what it's turned into now. So today we have all these things, ghost boxes. I've used them. I have people all the time ask me, do they work? And I always tell people, well, they absolutely have the potential to work. Doesn't always mean that they're going to. Sometimes circumstances and our attitudes seem to, have an effect on what we're going to get. So it's always good to have a good attitude when you're engaging in EVP. And so this is some of the history that I wanted to share with you. There's all kinds of things that we can see when we read these books. So again, we can see that people didn't know that EVP has actually been studied under scientific conditions. They may not have known that. They also may not have known that, it was used to solve some crimes. So you guys saw it there. You saw the reference. Right? You might want to Google it and check it all out for yourself. So when people tell you that it's absolute bunk, you've got something you can show them. So let's go on with some more information. Now, I'm going to jump over here to Victor Zamet. Now, he quotes Sir William Crookes as well, and to my surprise, he basically tells you that, to his surprise, that very few people are unaware of the dramatic leaps which have occurred in communicating with the afterlife using high technology. So there's a lot of information out there. Again, there's nothing that's really new. So Victor Zamet, let me tell you a little bit about this guy. If you'll get on Google and look him up, you will find that he was a lawyer. He worked in the Australian Supreme Court, so he knows how to present evidence. So he's very meticulous. And so he went in and he had some sort of paranormal experience, and he decided to investigate the paranormal. He looked into many, many subjects of, excuse me, of the paranormal. And this was just one of them, EVP. So it's a very interesting subject. He covered mediums. I think that if you read his materials, I think it would probably open your eyes about a lot of things. So there's thousands of researchers basically around the world that are recording EVP, ITC, and different methods. He gets into some of the people that he dealt with. Some of the people who were scientists, I think he lists them here. I'm going to jump down to those, and there you go. Some of the people who studied the phenomenon, and, they couldn't figure it out. I mean, again, these experiments were done in Faraday cages. There were no signals coming in. Again, they don't know where the voices come from, how they're created. There's a lot of theories out there, but what we do know is that the voices are real. Now, I just want to share something with you that I captured a number of years ago while investigating the paranormal. Now, I refer to this as a unknown sound phenomenon because we were never able to determine where the sound came from. And to me, it was more like a poltergeist. And the reason that I said it, noisy ghost simply, it didn't really cause any physical disturbance by moving things, but it was definitely attached to an individual's emotions. And so that was one of the things that you find with poltergeists, that they're typically attached to somebody. They get upset, things begin to happen. Well documented if you study parapsychology as I have. So what would happen is this individual would get excited in some way or another, either in a good or bad way. So if he was upset, it would happen. If he saw somebody of the fairer sex that he thought was really nice and easy on the eyes, this would happen. Other times, if he were eating a delicious meal. Now, I was with him in many occasions over the years, and for about a 6-month period, the sound followed him. And I'm going to play that sound for you. This sound can be found on my website on prosinvestigations.com. Again, prosinvestigations.com. So let me play that sound for you. Once again, now as I play it, I want you to listen. What you're going to hear is you're going to hear two grunts. You're going to hear the sound, which sounds like, I call a whistle stick, but in any case, it sounds much like that. And in the whistle sound, you're going to hear a couple of grunts. So again, I'm going to play it again. And one more time. Now, I can't explain that. I can only tell you that, again, it was attached to his emotions. It was something that we were on an active investigation, and it involved a toy that would turn on by itself, even with no batteries in it. So I was watching this item along with the homeowner when all of a sudden that sound manifested. Now, the individual was in the area. He was unaware of it. I recorded it, played it for him. He found it very interesting. At first he thought I was playing a joke, but it was shortly thereafter that as we were spending time together investigating, that the sound he noticed would happen around him. It just appeared one day. I saw him get mad one time, and this sound manifested about 9 times in a row, just one time after another, after another, after another. And he was very upset. Other times I can remember going to eat with him, and, well, trust me, this individual loved to eat. America wasn't as big as a house, and we would go to some place that he liked, and the sound would occur. Now, what was interesting with this sound is that quite often a cold spot was felt before it manifested. So I don't know if I want to use the term warning because I never felt threatened, but it was certainly an indicator that the sound was beginning to manifest. And sure enough, within that area that we could feel the cold, kind of like if you sit close to a cold window, you can feel that cold radiating off the window onto you. You could just feel that cold spot, and all of a sudden, the sound would manifest right out of that cold spot. In fact, I remember we were at a restaurant and I felt a cold spot, and I had mentioned something, and a lady thought I had said there was something on the floor. It was down low. So I told her, I said, well, you're not going to believe this. So I told the lady the story, and she could feel the cold spot and found it very interesting, couldn't understand why the cold spot was there. But as soon as the whistle sounded off, we used to call him Whistler, as soon as he sounded off, well, she wanted to clock out and go home for the day. That's all I'm going to say. So, folks, that's some of the history on EVP. Again, it's well documented. People quite often make the statement that it has no scientific research into the paranormal. Well, this is some that does. It's well known and documented by those who have studied the phenomenon. So, again, I've got about 35 years studying this phenomenon. Nothing is new, just new people coming with some newer equipment, doing the same thing that's happened before. So that's it. I want to say thank you for watching this video. Hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Again, please like, comment, and subscribe. And again, thank you for watching this channel, The Paranormal Truth Seeker.